I remember a few years ago, I was in a taxi with my wife, and we were talking to the guy about parenting because I always talk about parenting wherever I go, even in the in the cab. I asked him, "Do you have any kids? What's going on?" And he was talking about how he wants connection with his kids, so he drags them by their ears to the dinner table so they can all eat dinner together. Literally, physically drags them by their ears. And I said, why do you want them at the dinner table so badly if you're so unhappy with them that you're dragging them by their ears? And he goes, oh, because once we're all at the dinner table, that's how we connect and we become a family. I'll never forget that. And he was so sincere. And but I didn't let him off the hook, right? I was like, well, but if you're dragging your kid against their will, you've ruined whatever hope of connection you have sitting down to dinner with a resentful kid that you just harmed physically. But he couldn't hear it. My wife and I were shaking our heads all evening. Actually, it's like 3, 4, 5, 6 years later or something, probably longer. And we're still shaking our heads over that one. We still bring them up every now and then. This really shows me how people can just use so many justifications for coercion and violence of all sorts against children. Even with the best of intentions, it seems so reasonable. And this is why I push back against the whole idea of all authoritative power over control of our kids, even when we think it's good for them. Because it's not that different. It's not that different from what this guy is doing. Because his intent is pure. Like, he really genuinely believed. Because I questioned him. We had like a half hour with him on the way wherever we were going. And it was actually my wife's holiday party in December. And I still remember I was wearing a suit, and I never wear a suit. and he was really sincere about wanting connection with his family and wanting to be close to his kids. And he knew from his experience, his programming, that sitting at the table was the way to do it. So even if he had to go and grab his kids and drag them by the ears physically, complaining the whole time, drag them to the table, then that's how they created it. And so then, but his intentions, right? And so then if you say, I'm using my power over to stop my kid from doing something they want to do, or to do something that they want to do, and I'm using power to control them for their own good, you're not grabbing the ear physically, but the experience of the child's not all that different. And then we invented empathetic limits and loving limits, where you inflict this upon them, and then when they resist or cry, you say it's hard not to get what you want. But there's kind of a gaslighting in that particular empathy, because the fact is they're not crying because they're not getting what they want. They're crying because a person has set themselves up as an authority figure, and they have power over you. And there's two parts to it, actually. And they have power over you, and they're using that power to control you and remove your autonomy and remove your choice. And to use that power to cause you pain. And then the other side of it is the deep attachment our kids have to us. And especially in the early years before they put up too many shields around their heart, they are so open, and there's this deep need to connect with us as wise, emotionally centered, safe adults. You know? And when we become genuinely safe, they open up in a whole different way. But to get to that openness, we have to be willing to let go of the other. And so for me, what I like to do, I think of this cab driver all the time, and I really think about how am I meeting my goals? Like, I can have goals, I can have desires for the family, but the way that I go about trying to achieve those goals has to also align with my values. And the whole parenting philosophy is called non-coercive collaborative parenting. So one of the fundamental values is non-coercion, is we don't use our power to control our kids, including things that are good for them. But the other half of it is collaborative, which means At the same time, I do want to work on my goals and work on getting our needs met, all of us, and to be safe and to be healthy and to learn skills and to understand how the world works and to have a deep relationship with each with ourselves as individuals and then as as relationships and as a team. And you put all that together, the collaborative part, there's so much good stuff happening over there. We're working really hard at it. That we really let go of the coercion. It's a beautiful thing. But it's hard because a lot of changes. You might have to change a whole bunch of things about how you're parenting to really release your use of power. Because we're taught that it's totally reasonable. We're taught that it's dangerous not to do it. I get told that all the time. Because, of course, I am, preaching, yelling from the hills about this particular aspect of it, of really letting it. This is one of the things about authoritative and a lot of gentle parenting, is there's still one foot in the old mindset, one foot in the new. We're still authoritative, hierarchical, use the power, but we use it more gently. And this is why I harp on limits, but limits is not the only place of it, but limits is a very clear example because it's so talked about in all the parenting, everything, everywhere. That's why I did a collaborative limits workshop a little while ago to talk about how you can engage with your kids around limits, but not use coercion or shame or blame or wrongness to control your kid emotionally, physically, mentally, or in any other way. And so I use limits because limits are an interesting thing, because like if the cookie is the issue, having cookies before breakfast, because it'll spoil your breakfast. You had one cookie already, you can't have 2 and 3. And the kid is upset and they're crying. They wouldn't cry if you had given them the cookie. So you're causing avoidable pain that you don't have to cause. And the kids know that. They know that you could stop all of this pain just by giving me the cookie. They know that. Even the 2-year-old knows that. Instinctively, they know that. That's why my saying is kids are not testing our boundaries, they're testing our love. People have it backwards. They think they want us. We're told always they're testing to see if we'll stick to the boundary. No, that's not what they're testing. They're testing to see if they're worth being loved in this moment, even though it's unreasonable. That's what they're testing. And when we stop thinking of it as giving in, because when we giving in, you're losing a battle, right? And it's a power battle. It's a power struggle. But when you release that, the struggle is released. And then you don't have that disconnection with your kid. And my saying is, you can't be the perpetrator and the empathizer at the same time. So the empathy, like I said before, is it falls flat because the kid knows you're empathizing with something that you could just fix by giving them a cookie. Or letting them stay up another 2 hours, or not have to do their homework, or not pick up the toys from the floor, whatever it is, right? And they know you could just do it, and they know you're choosing not to do it, and then you're empathizing. I mean, at least empathize honestly. This is what I tell people. At least empathize honestly. Don't say it's hard not to get what you want. Say it's hard when your most trusted person that also happens to have a lot of power over you uses that power in a way that makes you upset and crying and feeling like a big loss and feeling powerless. It's hard when that happens. Right? Like if that's the empathy, if you're going to empathize and describe what's happening, really be honest about it. You won't be able to do that more than 2 or 3 times before you have to reconsider everything you're doing, right? You know that. It's because it's a totally different message than we normally tell ourselves is what's going on. And that's the point. Once it hits home what's really happening for the kid in their experience, it's very hard to go on doing that. And then what do? Well, that's what the collaborative part is. That's why I've put out over 200 videos. That's why I've written hundreds of articles on my Facebook page. And that's why I also have a membership group where I go live every week. We have for an hour or 2 hours every week. And I talk about all different things, recovering from yelling. I talk about how to deal with it when your kids hurt your feelings. I talk about how to deal with anger. I talk about praise. I talk about how to inspire courage and how to work with limits. And my most recent live was helping kids with transitions. Really good topics. I have over 20 now replays of an hour or two, up to 2 hours. Sometimes they go even longer because I have a lot to say. And so all the replays are there, and I go live every week. And that's a really great way to like fill your mind with information on this philosophy, but then it gives you so many tips and everything. But I mean, even if you don't join the membership, by the way, if you want to join the membership, it's meaningfulideas.com. But even if you don't join the membership, just going through my YouTube channel, I really, everything is there on that YouTube channel. That YouTube channel has almost everything in my philosophy. I mean, it's always updating, but sometimes I listen to some of those old videos from like 9 years ago, and I'm like, oh, okay, he knew what he was talking about then. So how can you, now I'm going to ask you now, how can you let go of a little bit more control? Can you notice where you're controlling your kids? Can you notice where you're using your power? And can you find a different way? It's a beautiful exploration, and you may not know what to do, but you can still stop using the power. The stopping of using the power you can do, and then figuring out what to do instead takes a little time. You have to be patient with that. But I believe in you. I believe that you are creative enough, intelligent enough, creative enough, powerful enough, and loving enough to figure out another way. You don't have to do it the way that causes all this pain and disconnection. And it's so many different messages. I mean, I won't go into it, but if you go through my YouTube channel, I talk about it a lot. But also the positive side is when your kids feel more safe with you because they know you're not going to use your power, and they can really rest in that. This beautiful vulnerability shows up that is absolutely amazing. And that you can't get in a coercive relationship because there has to be a certain amount of natural protection that happens when you experience a parent that's using coercion as a part of their parenting strategy. It's different than if you just make a mistake and you lose your temper and you apologize and you tell your kid, that's not what I want to do. Because they know it's not what you want to do. They know. It still hurts, but they know. It's different than when it's your parenting strategy, which is what I'm pushing us away from. So how can you notice those places of control and power and be really honest with yourself about it? And can you let them go? And then start to think of a different way. So I just want to leave that with you. I thought that was a very interesting story about the cab, and it's a beautiful thing to try and let go of that tension. So that's it, everybody. Thank you very much. Please follow me on all the spaces at Meaningful Ideas, and meaningfulideas.com is where the membership is. And peace out.